We're not just past the home stretch now. We're in the waning hours of the HasLab G.I. Joe Classified Series SnowCAT. Great news. It's funded. We've already got tier 1 done. Looks like we're making some steady progress to getting tier 2. But of course, I want all three. And I feel like everybody who's backed it wants all three. So we can have a fully formed SnowCAT with all the tiers. The G.I. Joe Classified Series team did a Q&A on Instagram. A lot of really good information, good insight, relieving some stress, hopefully a lot of questions some Classified Series fans had. I'm hyped up about it, and I'll be up until midnight, of course, anyway. But doing a live stream, talking about this. But let's break down everything we learned from the Q&A right now. What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. And here it is. The time is almost up. It's crazy. 45 days have gone by so quickly. And I've been stressing this thing out like, oh man, is it going to fund? The first day seemed like it was going to knock out and be funded by the end of the weekend. And then it just kind of slowed down to a glacial boom pace, but it's getting there. We're almost knocked out. And I wanted to take a look to see how things were going before the Q&A, because it seems like anytime Hasbro pays any attention to this thing and kind of puts more of a spotlight on it. Now they did an email blast and a lot of people backed it from there. With the Q&A with the team, how is that going to flow and how is that going to work? So when I checked it before the live stream, it was 10,563 backers. We needed a lot more, of course, to get to our second tier. That's the bivouac. I think I finally pronounced it appropriately and correctly now. And then right before the live stream, I took this screenshot, and that was 10,697 backers. Now, you may notice the timestamp is different. I just didn't refresh this page, so it looks like more time has passed, but it's actually further along with the backers. So 10,697, basically 10,700 by the time the live stream started. And we got a lot of good information on it. And again, this SnowCAT is an awesome vehicle. I am so excited to add this to my collection. I just think it's a fun vehicle. They did a really nice job upgrading it and updating it for the Classified Series line. And I cannot wait to put it in my collection. And Frostbite, being part of that 1985 squad, was a must for my collection. And I'm really happy with how this thing turned out. The more I look at these frost covered windshields, I kind of think that's what I'm going to want to do for mine, but it looks really cool. And so let's break down everything that they discussed in all kinds of random patterns, because this is my notes. And you can see here, I've got bivouac, so I could make sure that I said it right now. There's a lot of stuff to break down. Emily mentioned to start it. And before I get started with the rest of the Q&A, soapbox time. Watching the chat live playing out, I am so embarrassed about some of the G.I. Joe collecting fan base out there. We grew up watching a cartoon where everyone was tolerated and accepted. Nobody was looked down on except from Cobra. And watching these comments from the fans and the just unnecessary hate toward Emily is so annoying. It's like, did you not learn anything on all those episodes? And that's when the growing. I mean, now you know, knowing is half the battle. Don't be a jerk in comments. Yeah, so please, come on, guys. Emily's just trying to do her job, and I think she does a fine job at it. So stop hating on Emily. Anyway, Emily said to start off that everything is looking on track, which is interesting because all the naysayers are like, there's no way it's going to fund. But she said it's on track to fully fund. I think she's got enough experience with these HasLabs to trust her. She also mentioned a very important note that international orders are showing up in the backer count. She does that every Monday. So, of course, now it's Thursday. So, everything that's happened since Monday has not been accounted for. I'm not even sure she said that she did it this week. She did caution that the international backers are not a major component of the HasLabs because G.I. Joe is kind of skewed to the American fan base. So of course they're international backers, but it's not going to be tens of thousands of backers like some of us maybe were hoping was going to be the case. It's going to be some. She said we are going to notice a bump. And in this case, a bump could take us to that tier 3 of Flint, but don't expect like 5 or 6 thousand backers to show up magically overnight. We are going to see more. So that was important to note. She and Lenny both mentioned that these tiers, we'll see them again later. She mentioned, of course, with the bivouac, there's all kinds of potential for it. Lenny said a Night Force version is in the cards, a full-on green camouflage version. I think we all expected that, but again, these are just some confirmation parts to this thing. This is certainly one of those areas of somewhat contention for some of the fans. Like, well, are we going to see all this stuff? So yes, the bivouac, we are going to see it again. And I think that was pretty much a certainty. I don't know if there was some kind of thought of we're never going to see a bivouac again in this thing. We are. It's going to get done in different colors. So it's really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that deal though with the Arctic camo. I'm trying to find, there we go, a nice picture of my guy Frostbite with the bivouac. And so here you go. So we're going to see this with some with a different color scheme. Definitely think a Night Force setup for that is going to be really cool. And of course, the basic green. And Lenny took the time to break it down, and it disassembles really easily. I'm sure putting it together will be just as simple. I'm not sure if you can make out these posts here. You can see them here, but it looked like a really simple, put this on here. The poles assembly was really simple, really basic, and nothing too complex. So I was like, great. This is something I don't think I'm going to have a real problem navigating in the future if I decide I want to play around with it and move the bivouac to different locations or set up part of it. There were some great questions in the chat that I really wish were answered. One was, can we use the bivouac canopy over the SnowCAT, like on that base? So maybe you want to hide some Joes or something, you could store them, have them leaning in there, and have the covering actually cover the canopy covering them, which I thought would have been a really good one for them to answer. Evan from the Transformers team was working the camera, so it was a little bit of brand synergy there. A little Energon universe crossover action for you. But then there, I just want to show you again as a reminder, the bivouac does fit in here. And again, these photos would have been really helpful earlier, but so you can see it stores into the SnowCAT. So you don't have to worry about where is it going to go in my collection, in my display. It'll fit in really nicely right there. And I thought that was really cool. So we will see different variations of that later, and other questions that I think are pretty important to get to. First, they asked us in the Q&A, do we want to see companion pieces like that HISS Team 788 squad, the Range Viper, the Techno Viper, the Cobra Infantry Trooper? I think that was the set. Those three, do we want to see something like that? Now, I asked because I was really curious about this. We've seen that, and I mentioned that when they did the SnowCAT reveal, that hopefully we'll see something like that going forward. I don't want green shirts, and I want Steel Corps members. I would love to see that Flint body reused for, say, a Duke, the Lady J reused for Scarlet, other Joe characters who we've seen in the cartoon, not just the rando green shirts. I'd love to see more Joes because basically they're all wearing the same outfit. It's just the coat and whatever their pants are. So I think we could get a bunch of Joes like that to get their looks from G.I. Joe the movie. Roadblock was one I also saw mentioned in the chat. He's really essential. So that'd be great to see him. I think Shipwreck with his pea soup or pea blue, that didn't sound right. His blue naval jacket. I think that would be really cool to see as a figure in the snow variation aspect of this. So hopefully we'll see all that. And so they look for those kinds of answers. The funds now, of course, since it's the last day, will be drawn from your account at 11:59. Emily did mention you'll have 15 days to cancel. So yeah, the money will get taken out, but it'll get reimbursed if you decide for whatever reason 15 days later, I can't afford this thing and I need the money to pay for my AC or whatever. Anyway, you got 15 days. I think there were some rumors online that it was a full month. It's not, it's just 15 days, but there's plenty of time. And you get paid in between then. So hopefully you get paid in between then. What was some other ones? She did mention there's no chance of getting this Flint figure if it doesn't fund. So this amazing figure here, we're not going to see him revealed and released in the line if we do not hit all those tiers. Let me go here. We got a nice picture there during the chat of Flint. We're not going to see him if we don't get it funded. So they're not going to re-release Flint. And that picture looks tiny. Let me blow this up a bit so y'all can see him more. This was the actual on-hand versions of Frostbite, Lady J, and Flint. So we're not going to see Flint if he doesn't fund. So we need to get this back so we can get him actually done in this line. And she mentioned the ketchup and mustard figures from the Sky Striker tiers. They didn't get done. Now, she said, now because they didn't get done in that format, we're never going to see them with the O-ring 3.75 inch scale. But we could see them show up maybe in the classified series. So there's some ways to get stuff that doesn't reach the full funding, the full tiers getting funded. We could see that later on, just in a different way. We're not going to see Flint in this style if for some reason he doesn't get funded. But I'm still optimistic and hopeful we will see Flint get backed and fully funded there. So let's see what else was really cool and interesting that they mentioned. They also talked about the HISS tank, and this was interesting because, of course, this was the first classified series HasLab, and both she and Lenny said that we will likely see another HISS tank. What's going to happen is it's not going to be the premium rollout of it with all the fancy lights, and it'll be not quite as premium. They didn't want to say a cheaper pared down version, but we're not going to get that big fancy presentation that we got for the HasLab version. And they also mentioned, of course, they can't say figures that are going to be coming outside of those big announcements where we do the name only deals, where they do the name only reveals. But they did mention there was an Easter egg in the SnowCAT HasLab video release mentioning where Cobra Commander talked about a possible vehicle, and then some people were actually going through the live stream and said, hey, he mentioned slapping some white paint on a HISS tank. So the next HISS tank we see probably won't be in black, but an Arctic white theme version to go battle your SnowCAT. So that would be a nice companion vehicle, something for Cobra to take into the snow to battle your SnowCAT. I'm not really big on the HISS tank variations. I like the black one. I don't dislike the blue, but I'm all about the black and red. Now, they said we could get that, but I think we're more likely to see different variations, that red, the crimson HISS, the blue. So we might have to wait a long time before we get another black with a red color scheme for the HISS tank. But we will see another one, a streamlined, stripped down to some of those premium elements later. I would assume that would be a Pulse exclusive. What else was really interesting on this one? Emily said that the tiers are bonus. I'm pretty sure during one of those Marvel Legend conversations with people, Ryan, who's no longer with the Marvel Legends team now, did say that the tiers are factored into the cost. So I'm not sure. Maybe that's a G.I. Joe thing, and Marvel Legends has its own deal. Of course, with the Marvel license, they're paying Disney some, so maybe that's what's going on. And the tiers for G.I. Joe, I mean, they did include a lot more stuff than we normally see with the typical Marvel Legends HasLab. So maybe they are, but that's what Emily said on that. And then let's see what else we got. They couldn't name anyone in particular, but they did say yes, of course, more Arctic figures are in fact coming. And this is one that I've been seeing in comments and it's just been driving me nuts. Not from you all, just reading around different forums where they're like, they should have announced more Artsy figures. Yes, they should have. That would have been the smarter thing to do. But it's not like this is the last year of G.I. Joe Classified Series releases. Clearly, with a big G.I. Joe snow vehicle, we're going to see more snow characters, both on G.I. Joe and Cobra. Another question I really wanted to hear answered was, what about the October Guard? We didn't get an answer to that. That'd have been great to hear. we do have these really cool figures and more snow figures to come. They also mentioned, Lenny said they're going to do a really cool deal with these lights. And this is exciting. There are going to be all kinds of different modes for it. He mentioned a fog mode lighting, a alert mode, and surveillance mode. And that was really cool. But they also said they're going to have a USBC setup where if you want, you can keep your your SnowCAT lit up all the time. It'll be like a lamp on your display. It'll be a giant night light. That's pretty cool to actually have that set up where you don't have to worry about the batteries corroding and messing up your vehicle. You could just have that USB port in there chilling and you can have it lit up all the time. I am so excited about that. That's one of those deals where it's like, way to think outside the box and give us something different with the HasLab. So I'm really excited about that. That was really cool to hear. What else? No extensions. This is it. Tonight at 11:59 p.m. it is over and done. So those people going, well, they extended the Dragonfly by a certain amount of time. We're not going to see that. They're going to wrap this up. But I really do think we're going to see that last few hours surging through with a few more. Emily said she's going to be working, answering questions. Lenny said he'd probably be online as well. And I think she'll take some of that time and push those numbers up. It seems like people are going, I'll wait till the bivouac funds and then I'll back it, which again, if you had backed it earlier, you could have pulled out, be like, all right, I don't want it after the funding window. But now it's just like you're not getting that benefit. And it's so many people waited to the last minute. We don't get that surge of people earlier putting it all the way through. Like if Flint funded earlier, and I don't think people would go, oh, it's not worth it if we don't have all the figures. But those same people would help get it funded, but they're just waiting. I don't know. This is so confusing to me. Another thing Lenny mentioned, they have focus groups, and a lot of people from the focus groups have been online saying, well, they did mention a SnowCAT. They had a tank. I think they said the Mauler, not the Mobat. But he said, or some of these people were mentioning that, yeah, they did have the SnowCAT. Lady J was attached to the Havoc and in this Arctic gear. So that makes sense because she was rocking that G.I. Joe the movie. The Havoc was a big featured vehicle in that first fight with Cobra when they were trying to steal the BT. But Lenny mentioned that with the figures that could be included, Flint and Lady J were mentioned by these focus groups. It wasn't like they just pulled those two out of random. And they did have the option for steel core or generic troop builders in there. And according to their research from the focus groups that they talked to, they didn't want those. So, maybe they're more like me where, yeah, I'd rather have snow variations of characters who are in the cartoon doing things in cool episodes than just the random green shirts where I have to do some swapping of parts to make work. So that's encouraging. So maybe for the companion pieces, we will see more named G.I. Joes. What else was a really interesting note that I thought, oh, Lenny did mention that the HISS, gosh, why am I continuing to call this the HISS tank? I guess I have just some crazy love for the HISS tank all of a sudden. But Lenny mentioned that we will see, let me pull this picture up just so I can keep some fresh photos in this thing. He mentioned that he loved the vehicles and kind of referenced the box art for the SnowCAT about how they could load up so many figures. And he said they're going to have more pegs and more rails that can serve as hand grips so you can load up more Joes on the SnowCAT. He threw out 10, which was the amount that the original box art said. And if you wanted to, you could put 10 Joes on the old school vintage Real American Hero SnowCAT. So that'll be really cool to see. And I'm really excited that he mentioned that by, the full number, because I'm all about loading up my vehicles with a ton of Joes and Cobras. So that was very exciting. And let's see here. They did have some other cool pictures to show us. And of course, as I'm doing this now, we're getting another thunderstorm in the area. So Lenny showed off just how some of the parts in this. Let me blow this up a little bit more too. So we got the bivouac, we got Flint, we got Lady J, and Lance Corporal Joe said, we need a polar battle bear, guys. This is like, man, it's funny because I feel like, yes, they're well aware of that stuff. We are going to get that later. So he showed off some really cool stuff there. Here's the comparison to the HISS. This is why I kept saying the HISS tank. But look at the size of this. So it's longer, it's wider. And I mentioned the reason why it's bigger is because there's the SnowCAT has 2 seats. The HISS just has one, but the HISS tank is taller. So there's a little something to it. And I'm wondering about the size of the HISS tank and, what it's gonna look like in those Arctic colors because seeing a few HISS tanks going against the SnowCAT could be fun. Would it be that hard to spray paint it all black and just have some more black HISS tanks? Because of course I only got one. But yeah, this is really cool. This missile base, of course, is detachable and it'll stand on its own, so you can have it as a separate base. That's very cool. And they had it lit up basically the whole time. It's just an impressive looking vehicle, and I'm so happy it got all the way funded because I was going to be just so upset if we didn't. Here's the sticker sheet, and you can see the frost covering there for the roof, the lower windshield. It's really interesting to see they've already got the sticker sheet done. And so Lenny mentioned they've got different kind of designs for it, so you can do whatever you like. This is the more modern take for it. I love that. That's cool. Not gonna have that as my main one. I think this would be my main one, but they're gonna have smaller versions of these stickers that you can put on the snowboards. So this might be where I start to mix and match the different looks for the SnowCAT, just having different stickers on different snowboards. But there's all kinds of cool display options for it. And the stickers are surprising amount of fun for me on that. And a big yo Joe from them. And I'm hyped. I'm ready to see where this thing goes. Let's see here. So right, and this is when I started 10,847 backers. Let's do a quick refresh and see where we are now. All right, so 10,909. And we've got how many more hours to go at this point? Where's that? 10 hours, 14 minutes, 13 minutes. But it's coming along and really excited about Emily's excitement that yeah, this can happen and everything is looking solidly on track. Remember, we get 12,000 backers, we get the bivouac, 14,000 for Flint. It's getting there. We're on track apparently. So hopefully we'll see that hit to 12,000 by like 3 or 4 o'clock. That way it's just 2,000 more backers till we get to Flint. But yeah, this SnowCAT, a dream project for me for my classified series display. And I am so excited to have this. We got Lady J. You can still get the bivouac. You can still get Flint. Still hopeful. So if you haven't backed it, if you got the means, if you're kind of on the fence, if you're thinking about it, go ahead and take that plunge. It's not going to be a lot out there. And, people were like, well, I can sell a second one. And, I think this is going to be one of the rare classified series HasLab. So you're looking at it from a financial standpoint of what can I flip as a figure or vehicle? This might be a solid option. There's no chance of me selling this though. This is going to be one of my centerpieces of my classified series collection. I'm really excited about it. So hopefully everything gets funded. And of course, I'll be back on later on for the regular Lyle's Figure Files live Thursday night at 8:05. And then I'll be back on 11:30 unless Flint is funded before then. But we'll see how it goes. Stay with us here. And thank you as always for watching. This episode of Lyle's Figure Files has been filed.